Hello everyone, I'm your host Amir Selenia, and on today's segment we're going to be discussing the UEFA Champions League. As you may or may not know, there are 4 teams left in the competition as we're in the semi-final stage. So without further ado, let's start discussing what happened in the first set of fixtures in the semi-final clash. Last Wednesday, Real Madrid made the trip to Munich to take on Bayern Munich at the Allianz Arena. Bayern Munich coach Jupp Heynckes' Bayern side were a little shortened as to the players that they could field against Real Madrid. There were several key injuries that affected their preferred starting 11 that they would normally field. Of course, their legendary goalkeeper Manuel Neuer has been out for quite some time and has recently started training again in anticipation of the World Cup. That said, David Alaba, their starting left back, was also out injured, and Arturo Vidal, one of their main important holding midfielders, was also out for this clash. I say these things because it's very important to know that Bayern were very short-handed in anticipation of this matchup, and within the first half hour of this game, both Arjen Robben and Jerome Boateng actually had to come out injured. It made things a lot harder for them. For the majority of the game, Bayern Munich controlled large amounts of possessions, were able to put a lot of shots on net. However, their finishing was a little lackluster to say the least. The story of this game really boils down to Bayern Munich not being able to capitalize on all the opportunities that they created. I don't care how good you are, if you have the likes of Robert Lewandowski, Thomas Müller, and Frank Ribéry, you should be able to put the ball in the back of the net depending on the amount of chances that you make. That's what good sides do. Bayern Munich, unfortunately, just weren't up to the task, and it turned out to be a rough display for them. Real Madrid midfielder Toni Kroos himself, who Real Madrid ironically bought from Bayern Munich a couple of years ago, mentioned post-game how lucky he felt that Real Madrid were able to come out of this tie, especially in such a tough atmosphere in Germany, in Munich, on a Champions League semi-final, and come away with the win given the way that they had played. We discussed the 2 injuries that Bayern sustained by the 30th minute in Jerome Boateng and Arjen Robben both having to come off the field. That said, it wasn't all bad for them to start. Joshua Kimmich found himself on the receiving end of a brilliant through pass by James Rodriguez, who, if you remember correctly, used to play for Real Madrid. Ironically enough, he went there over the summer, so you could say he was playing with a chip on his shoulder, to say the least. Joshua Kimmich spots the James Rodriguez through ball down on the left flank of Real Madrid, an area where Marcelo should really be covering, to say the least, and he just put it in the back of the net. To be honest, I believe that Keylor Navas should have had a touch on that. It was a pretty questionable goal. World-class goalkeepers should be able to clear the ball. I'm a big fan of Keylor Navas. I think he's a brilliant shot stopper. I really don't think it's fair that Real Madrid are constantly linked with moves for Thibaut Courtois and David De Gea when Keylor Navas is a perfectly capable Real Madrid goaltender. So it was 1-0 heading towards the final minutes of the first half when chipped the ball in to the right side of the 18-yard box, and Dani Carvajal, the Real Madrid right back, headed the ball across, and of course all eyes went in anticipation of Cristiano Ronaldo in the box. And to be honest, it looked like he was setting himself up to go for another spectacular bicycle kick goal, but the ball popped up to Marcelo, and of course no one was anticipating the Real Madrid left back to be there. And just like that, he atoned for his earlier mistake and smashed the left-footed volley into the short side. It was 1-1 heading into the half, and when the second half resumed, it was more or less of the same story once again. Bayern Munich carving key chances, but just weren't able to put it away. Again, if you recall correctly, I was mentioning that David Alaba was out, so Rafinha was starting in his place. Unfortunately, Rafinha made a calamitous error when he tried to make a back pass to Nicolas Süle of Bayern Munich, his own teammate, and Marco Asensio of Real Madrid spotted that, and just like that, Asensio and Lucas Vazquez were on the break. A little 1-2, and next thing you know, Marco Asensio has put it into the back of the net for a 2-1 Real Madrid lead. And that result would stay. Absolutely crazy. This result goes a long way for Real Madrid because they take a 2-goal away lead in an aggregate tie back to Madrid. Some of you may recall last year's events where Real Madrid played Bayern Munich and they actually were losing 2-1 and the game had to go into extra time, and Real Madrid, thanks to Cristiano, were able to pull away into the tie and head into the finals. And of course, you know that Real Madrid won the Champions League last year. Oddly enough, Cristiano Ronaldo wasn't able to get on the score sheet for the first time in, 12 games, thus ending his record-breaking consecutive run of 11 games scored in the UEFA Champions League. He had a goal in the second half, which was rightfully disallowed by the referee as he made a little bit of contact with his arm to control the ball. Although it was a very nice finish, the goal was disallowed. Real Madrid will be taking this 2-1 lead back to Madrid for the second aggregate leg tie of this fixture. Over the weekend, Real Madrid had a solid 2-1 victory against CD Leganes, and they didn't go about resting their players to an extreme level. They wanted to keep them fresh as they knew what kind of test they will be waiting back at the Santiago Bernabeu on Tuesday. Bayern Munich themselves also enjoyed a 4-1 victory over Eintracht Frankfurt, but the most positive news that came out of it was that David Alaba had gone through full training for Bayern Munich and he might be a late fitness decision for the game at Madrid. One thing's for sure, we're in for a very mouth-watering fixture at the Santiago Bernabeu on Tuesday. I do see Bayern Munich coming out with a fire, with a passion, trying to erase that lead that Real Madrid were able to sneak at the Allianz. But ultimately, I do see Real Madrid being able to take this result, turn it into another positive one, and getting themselves into the Champions League final. Look for a very eager Cristiano Ronaldo to do more of the same of what he did last year against Bayern Munich at the Santiago Bernabeu, as that we all know that Portuguese talisman doesn't go many games without scoring. 5 goals in the tie last year and the 2 home and away. He's going to get on the score sheet. But for Bayern fans, for your guys' sake, I hope your defense comes out ready this time. If you're enjoying our content, feel free to give us a like and subscribe to our YouTube channel, as well as finding us both on our Facebook and our Instagram pages. Both are at Footballtalkstv. Instagram.com/Footballtalkstv, Facebook Footballtalkstv. We're going to have a lot of interesting content coming up for this year's World Cup previews, a lot of analysis on both the significance of results that happened, why they're important, what can we talk about them, and most importantly, in the off-season we'll be addressing transfer rumors, as that is a rumor mill that definitely needs to be addressed.